Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to another episode of Sree's Daily Global COVID-19 Show. My name is Sree Sreenivasan, and it's my honor to convene this daily conversation around various aspects of COVID-19. Today, we're going to talk about public schools in New York City, and we have two fabulous guests to help us understand what's happening in public schools. They're here to help us understand what's happening and to also answer some questions. Claudia Zangrillo is with us. She's an aide at the William T. Sherman School. And Joe Salina is an English and media teacher at Quest. So glad to have you with us. These episodes are produced with these ones that are called our Stony Brook Journalism episodes. And my students at the Stony Brook School of Journalism are producing several of these episodes as part of our Digital Innovations in Journalism course. And this episode is produced specifically by three students, Jake Basile, Chris Cumella, and Michael Panagiotopoulos. Made a mistake now, my bad. Let's now go and let me tell you a little bit about the show. Just so glad to have you all with us. Thank you for being here and thank you for watching. Please tag your friends. We're live right now on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, and on LinkedIn. Please hit share. Your friends can watch live or later. Let's take a look at a little background on the show. The show's been on the air for more than 215 episodes in 200 days. We've had more than 1 million viewers and 150 million plus social impressions, 386 guests. 228 of them have been women from 68 cities and 20 countries, including the chief scientist.com/Speenet. And we're in partnership with Scroll Global and Scroll.in. Please check them out. We're able to do this because of our fabulous producers, Vandana Menon, Vandana_Menon, and Rose Horowitz. Rose Horowitz reopened, and we want to learn more about them. So let's bring on our student co-host, Chris Cumella. Hi, Chris. Welcome.
Hello, Professor Srinivasan. It's great to be back with you again. How are you tonight?
I'm doing great and great to see you. This is your second time around, so we're going to give you the show to handle. We've got two great guests and you have connections to them. So tell us about them.
Well, Claudia Zangrillo is a woman that has been in PS 87, formerly known as William Sherman School, as an aide for nearly 24 years. She knew me when I was 10 years old in the graduating class of 2010, and we have thankfully reconnected once again. She's going to be giving us insight into the elementary life during COVID. And Joe Salina is a man that got me involved in journalism in the first place with his high school class of journalism blogging during my senior year. He is someone who I admire, I look up to, and I'm very glad that he was also able to join tonight. He is currently working on my former high school, Quest. It is very wonderful to have you two here tonight. I know that you must be very busy. Understand that you are handling work yourselves. Taking time to be here tonight is truly wonderful. So, the way this is going to work is I just want to ask you some general questions about how things have been in your school specifically. We'll go back and forth. You'll answer what you can, and hopefully we'll be able to have the audience learn something new. So, that being said, I would like to start with you as the man who got me interested in journalism in the first place. So, sure. It's on my mind, and I'm sure it's on other people's minds right now. Is Quest participating in online learning, hybrid, or are you in person?
We're doing a hybrid model. They're also calling it blended, and that was the plan kind of since the end of the summer, and that's what we've been trying to do now.
So does it work in the sense that students come into school certain days of the week and then they do online learning for the rest?
Yeah, so the plan as it's on paper is that you have different cohorts of students, A, B, and C groups. So on an A day, you would have those students in school while the others are at home, either getting like a live stream or seeing some kind of asynchronous recording. And then on the days when the A group isn't there, they're at home, and the B group comes in, and then the C group, and it's kind of this 2-day rotation.
Interesting. I never heard of a process like that. Do you believe that it's efficient and it's been workable?
I mean, I think that, I think many schools in the city ultimately had to come up with plans that were, doable with staff limitations and other things like that. So I would say that it's working. However, it's definitely, there's a lot of gaps that teachers are having to fill in to make it work. Which, I think administration is sympathetic to that. It's just, it's a really difficult situation for everybody involved. And I think, it's been keeping the numbers of students in class to reasonable amounts, but I think overall it does feel like a large majority of students have chosen to go fully remote because that was an option for them.
I see. Fascinating. I want to bring it over to Claudia for 1 minute, and let's dive into an analysis of elementary school life. So Claudia, you are an aide at US 87, and you primarily work with children aged 5 to 10, some of whom are just starting to understand the concept of COVID and what it. Do you notice that your students, when you have them wear masks, practice social distancing, do you find them still energetic and full of happiness regardless?
Well, first and foremost, I'm very sad because my life was mostly the cafeteria life, which most people do not like it. And for me, it was my stage. I love watching them. It was crazy, as you remember, 160 kids, 1 aide, it is true. And I miss them dearly because they say the truth about this union. Our union are the children. And I don't have them anymore because they're stuck in their classroom. They only get out for the bathroom. PS 37, as you know, it's a very well-known school with a huge parent body, money involved. So they go outside, they have Mark, you remember Mark, the gym teacher, we still have the gym outside. They're eating in the classroom, so I no longer have them in the cafeteria. Today I saw a bunch of 10 kindergartners, they passed me by with masks. Yes, they're the same, they're energetic, they're happy, they're excited to be introduced to some of us. But life took a big change for all of us. There is no noise. There is no kids into my office. There is no kids in my cafeteria. So it is hard to adjust, but I miss them dearly. And I know that they miss me too, and they miss being in school.
You always brought such a lovely atmosphere to the school. I can only imagine how difficult it is on both sides.
It is.
Well, the next question.
Go ahead.
The next question I did want to ask will be for both of you, and we'll have you answer 1 at 10. What I wanted to ask in particular was, do you find it beneficial in some way to partake in online learning? And Joe, I would love to hear your answer first, as someone who is confirmed with a hybrid course.
So just to make sure, because the internet's a little wonky, I'm just making sure the question is, am I seeing any kind of benefit to remote learning?
Yes, sir.
It's a really good question. Personally, I feel like the verdict is still kind of out on that. As a teacher, it's a really tough situation to be in. Majority of students don't use their video. for some very justifiable reasons. If they don't have Wi-Fi at home and they're using their phones, I'm not going to expect them to use all their data so I can see their face. But, it presents really big challenges. You often feel like you're kind of speaking to a void. There's a lot of delay in response. It's hard to know what's clicking, whereas when you're in a classroom, it's much easier to kind of get a sense of whether or not the group you're talking to is understanding what you're talking about or what you've just taught them. I guess, I think that there are ways in which remote learning could be made to be pretty fruitful and useful. But I think since we're all sort of just getting started with it, I feel like it doesn't really compare to in person. But it's like the best we have at the moment. So I think we're all trying to make it work as best we can. And, like apps like Zoom, you have breakout rooms, you have ways to work with students one-on-one, you can share screens. So there's ways around it. It doesn't feel natural yet. And it doesn't feel, it's just harder to take, inference data from your students because they're not there. And that's a huge part of the job, is just being able to read the room and individuals.
I'm so glad that you mentioned that. One of the biggest things that I miss during this whole transition pieces of my own experience. I can only imagine as it is, I don't want to say disheartening, but it is a little bit challenging to see those that you're lecturing to. That being said, I did want to move on to Claudia and ask if PS87 is adopting any online learning any such way. Have you noticed it? And if so, do you believe that there are benefits to it?
Well, I have to agree with Joe that most people, for some reason, especially at 87, like I said, money, country homes, and a lot of grandparents were living around Connecticut and Hamptons, and a lot of the parents chose and kids chose the remote. Being an aide and not a teacher, but having grandchildren, believe it or not, I have a granddaughter, 13 years old, very sweet and kind. This is Brooklyn school, but DOE. And she was having a very difficult time with bullying, a word that growing up I never even heard, but I know it exists. So for her, was a dream come true. She still see her friends. She still have that social life. But for her not having to endure what she had to endure in middle school and starting high school next year, she's even doing much better in academics too. So it depends. Talking to children, you know me, Christopher, I'm in the yard all the time. It's half and half. Some kids are happy. Some kids really want us to come back. Some kids want what we had before. But it's to be seen, what's going to happen. But I think the kids miss a lot of the school. But some of the kids don't have such a good time in school sometimes. So for me, some are happy with the situation, and let it be, so be it.
I completely
And I have a
understand.
grandson, which was doing very well in first grade. Suddenly, he doesn't like to be online because we taught them not to use the technology so much, to read, to play, and he think it's boring, first graders. So it's hard. It's hard on age. It's hard on everything. And for some kids, it's just they adapt. The world adapt.
That's what it's all about. It's just been a long endurance test of adaptability and compromise. But it's great to see that you two are doing your part to make sure that those you work with and certainly help the lecture are the most of their education. That being said,
And one more thing.
I want to talk about
Chris?
Did you have something you want to add on?
Yes, sorry to interrupt you, but I like when Joe said to, and now I even lost my thought. because I work all day. But with something that Joe said that I really liked it too. Oh, the Zoom. You know, they're trying to come back with after schools, which I've been doing for 17 years too. But I got out of the after school and I start with one child one-to-one. And I was going to open my own after school because my own son said, but don't forget the kids that the parents are not letting them out. But I cannot do Zoom. I have to see the children. I have to be with them. I have to look at them. So for me, if this technology continues, I don't know what am I going to end up, because a Zoom for me is like Joe being a teacher. You want to be with them. You want to see them. You want to connect with them. And it's hard on Zoom.
Very, very. That being said, we have covered what goes on in the classroom, particularly in the lunchroom. The lunchrooms in my elementary and high school experience have been anything except not that. That being said, I was wondering if you both could explain to me a little bit what you notice in your school's lunchrooms, and if you believe that precautions are being put in place. And Claudia, I would love to start with you, if you don't mind.
And like Joe said, because of the internet, you're going to have to repeat your question because you break it up. I mean, the sound is not perfect, but that's understandable. But you have to repeat your question.
Of course, no worries. What I was asking is, when you look at lunchroom at PS 87, have you noticed any significant change in how things are being operated?
No, now, right now, the cafeteria is being used if the teachers want to come and eat. Tables are there, the staff is there. I don't know if you remember Gretchen, she's still there. And they sit around, you know, we prepare some different food for us, but there's no children. Children are not allowed to come into the cafeteria. They're
So what do
eating
they?
our staff brings the lunch to the kids. Some kids still bring lunch from home, and some kids still eat school lunch. There's no hot meals anymore, which the kids really liked it. But there's no hot meal, just, you know, sandwiches and different stuff, but cold. But they bring, the cafeteria personnel brings the lunch to the classrooms now.
I see. And I assume that they still prepare meals inside the cafeteria?
Yes, but like I said, only cold meals. And believe it or not, with the school that we have, I don't remember what you ate. We had 400 something kids eating hot lunch. I mean, and kids would come to us with rich families. I mean, living in the Upper West Side and saying, where's the hot lunch? There's no hot lunch today. They missed it. So I know that they missed it somehow, their lunch. But all we can serve now is cold meals.
Personally, my favorite was the cheese sandwiches.
Yes, yes. But the kids started, we had grilled cheese. No more grilled cheese, you know.
Mm. Like we've said, it is a compromise right now. Mr. Salina, high school, if I remember, they shared the lunchroom with other schools in the same building. Is that still happening?
No, it's pretty similar to what Claudia was saying. It's the students get their lunches and their breakfast delivered to them in the classroom, and that's where they eat it.
Interesting. And who delivers it?
Like, you know, teachers' aides or people who secretaries. Typically, they go around. You know, at like designated periods to see if anybody wants lunch. I'd say, you know, sometimes students are taking the food. Other times, I think they're just waiting until they get out of school.
I see. Moving on, I wanted to inquire, is there anything in particular that parents have brought towards either of you in regards to concerns about their children being at school, in regards to them being around others? Have you received any concerns or complaints from parents? And it's okay if no, because that's a better answer then. And, Joe, I would love to start with you.
Personally, no, I haven't received any concerns from parents. I mean, it's possible that they've reached out to the school. Over the summer, the principal held a few town halls for families to kind of address questions. So I imagine most of their concerns and questions were addressed then. But personally, no, I haven't, so far parent interaction has mostly just been limited to trying to figure out like technology issues or trying to figure out, how to get a student caught up with something because, maybe they didn't have access to the class for a while for whatever reason, but nothing really in the way of health concerns. I have to imagine, just based on the numbers I'm seeing, that parents who were concerned about health made their kids go fully remote. That would be my impression, at least.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely valid. Claudia, what would you have to say?
I think for me, it's the same as Joe. We haven't received, and our body, they complain, but about health and safety issues, we are doing really well. The kids are all with their masks. I even saw a teacher today in first grade, and the kid was talking to her very close, and I went down to the secretary and I said, it's amazing how they complain that they catch us sometimes with the mask a little down, and the kid was very close to the teacher. And the secretary said, was they both wearing a mask? And I said, yes. She said, then it's okay. For me, I was happy to see it. That 87 is taking, it's like a private school. You pass by, is the teacher with 10 students, and they have her full attention. And we have 14 paraprofessionals in the building. So each class has one. So for some kids, I imagine there must be really a good place. And for other kids, they probably miss the craziness, the bathroom time, get out in the hallway and come down to the nurse. So it's different. But in the health issue, I think we're doing really well. And like Joe said, the people that are really paranoid and really afraid, they just kept their kids at home. They don't allow their kids to come to school. And it's funny because the kid that I watch got tested. And I was surprised. I don't know about parents that he got tested in school. And the mother was very happy. So the DOE is going around too and testing the kids with the parents' consent, of course. So safety is there. Safety is there. I have no worries about safety.
I'm sure it's very reassuring for parents to know that their children in good hands.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the next question that I wanted to bring to your attention is one of resiliency. And more particularly, I wanted to ask, have you noticed students in person being a little, so to say, uncooperative, wearing masks? And if so, if you could describe a little bit what you would do to help incentivize them to put it on, then that would be fantastic. And Claudia, I would love to start with you because if I'm remembering back correctly to when I was under the age of 10, I was a little rascal and did not like authority.
Well, I think on my knowledge of seeing the kids before this all happened is how much parents allow kids to watch TV and the news, which growing up I never did. So the kids were really much into everything that was going on. So I don't think they dare much of not using the mask, especially if you are indoors in school. The first thing you have to say, it's the law. You don't wear it, you're out. Outdoors in the yard, I love seeing that a lot of kids don't have the mask. A lot of kids are playing on the fresh air. And the mask is it's a very hard issue for me, because there is do you agree with the mask? You don't agree with the mask? But right now we're talking about public schools. It's the law. So you have to wear the mask. So I'm not finding any problems. And like I said, we don't have any more 1,000 kids, 900 kids in the building. We have very little, much less than we had before. So I'm quite sure there's not one teacher that had complained about any kids having any issues on putting the mask or removing the mask, which we have issue with kids. We have a lot of troubled children, but I think they're at home, Chris. I don't think they're in school right now because I haven't heard any issues with kids not wearing a mask.
That does make it a little easier.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, Miss Salina, high schoolers, have you noticed all of them wearing masks?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's, we're not really talking about huge numbers of students. Like today I saw 6 students the whole day. So, we're talking very small class sizes. And so the kids that are there know what the deal is. We definitely take wearing a mask seriously, but we're trying not to be, too authoritarian about it. I mean, I think, once in a while, a kid their mask might slip off their face and they don't notice, or I noticed a few students instinctually without thinking about it. One thing that I'm running into a lot is a lot of students, can't or have trouble projecting their voice and don't take into account that they're wearing a mask. So sometimes you ask them to repeat stuff and then they'll take the mask down to say something like, no, you got to keep it on. But it's not like a discipline issue. There's nobody who's giving us a hard time and, refusing to wear one, because ultimately if they refuse to wear one, then they can't be at school. They have to go fully remote. So for the most part, it's just been like reminders, just like, nice reminders, just, hey, you got to move your mask up or whatever. And everybody understands. And I don't think anyone's, I think everybody thinks it's annoying, but I don't think anybody disagrees with having to do it.
I would hope not. Now, you two have got some information to me that I didn't know prior, which was that apparently it sounds as though some students actually have a choice as to whether they want to be in person at home, which I thought was that whatever the rule of the school was, they had to follow. But that being said, is there a formal process that one has to fill out if they wish to be learning at home rather than in person? And would you mind taking a minute to explain that? Claudia, I would love to hear from you first.
Well, I'm a little bit worried because I'm in my bedroom and this came and said low battery. And I'm saying, well, I have to get up and get a charger and put it on the iPad or I'm going to go off. But your question again, what was your question?
It was basically, is there a process that you have that allows one to either learn in person or at home?
Oh, yes. Paperwork? Joe, Mr. Salina, pick it up. Paperwork is with us. Oh, yes. You have to fill up forms. You have to fill up forms now being tested in school. Then they wanted to get order, like they sign yes, and then they're like, no, I don't want it. It's all possible. You can be in and out, depends on what you want.
And does that require the signature of the student, the parents, or both?
I think by age. Elementary school, I think the kids have no choice. The parents make the choice for them. And in high school and middle school, I have no clue who makes that choice. Joe can pick on that. Can I leave 1 second to pick up a charger?
While Joe says his answer, please do get a charger. Joe, What is the formal process if a student wishes to learn at home or in person?
It's pretty straightforward. I mean, there's just like a DOE survey that you fill out. You need a guardian to do it. I mean, presumably, I'd imagine if a student is a legal adult, they'd be able to do it themselves. But if not, you need a parent or a guardian to fill it out, and they can do it anytime. We've had a bunch of students who initially were going to be blended decide, within the first couple of weeks that they wanted to be fully remote. So it's like a rolling admission kind of a thing. It's completely up to the family. It's completely up to the student and their family, whether they're there in person or fully remote. But I do know statistically, like the city has been going more and more fully remote. I think we're over 50% at this point. families have chosen to keep their kids home.
Do you expect to see an increase anytime soon?
I mean, you know, all I can kind of do is speculate, right? I think that if we've learned anything from this year, it's really hard to predict exactly what's going to happen. And so my prediction is that these numbers are going to stay steadily increasing. I think unless there's some major shift in, you know, virus cases, I think people are going to probably keep pulling kids out, you know, because there have been, like, you know, steadily rising cases, and it seems like, I think also, you know, some students I think definitely get a lot out of coming in because they get the social interaction, they get to see their teachers, they get to see some of their friends. But I also have to imagine that for some of them, you know, when they did come in and they saw, you know, just kind of how empty everything is, that for some of them, they're like, you know what, I don't, you know, there's no reason for me to come here. I should just be home. And so I do think it's probably going to we're going to keep seeing people going to fully remote. I don't really expect the opposite. But you never know, I guess.
That being said, subsequently, have your schools given you the option, the teachers, to be at home? And Joe, I'd love to run it right back with you, if possible.
We were not given a choice, really. I mean, you could get a medical accommodation if your doctor could provide a letter stating that you are at risk according to the CDC guidelines. So, you know, if you're a smoker, if your BMI is over a certain number, you know, pregnant, old, you know, if you're over a certain age, those are different things. And then lots of other stuff that I'm obviously forgetting. But yeah, I mean, but it was solely based on, you know, your medical history and whether or not your doctor thought you were at risk of, you know, a more severe case of COVID. Otherwise, yeah, we have to be there if we want to keep our job.
Wow. Claudia, is it the same situation at PS 87?
Yes, I have to agree with Joe. I don't think the numbers are going to increase. And like Joe said, depends on the school, staff. For us, it's a dream come true for some kids because we have the staff. Like even when you ask about lunchroom, we have lunchroom staff that brings the food up. We don't have to do anything. Like even me, aide, I'm not bringing lunch to anyone. But I don't think is the right. Like I said, there's some kids, some schools, like I've heard the kids get the iPad. It's only one person. They cannot deal. It's a little staff. And the kids are told, now do your assignments. So some kids will say, well, to be like that in the classroom, I'll be at home. But for kids I'm speaking about 87, seems like it's going really well because life is like a little normal there, you know, not cafeteria, not this, that, but they're able to go to school, you know, like he said, cohort A, cohort B, you know, 1 week yes, 1 week no, but seems like it's working, And about cases and the corona, to tell you guys the truth, I never watch the news. I don't even, you know, no television. So I don't, you know, it's very hard for me to go into the issue of the virus, the non-virus. And like Joe said, you want your job, you obey by. I've been told by the principal too, oh, I understand, because everybody has the little office. They're able to remove their mask. I practice Tai Chi. I did yoga since I'm 18 years old. I'm 64. For me, breath is the most important thing in my life. But when I'm in school, I try behind the computer, a little down the nose, because I can't. It's really hard on me. But like Joe said, you want to keep your job, keep the mask on.
Folks, I'm sorry to interrupt this little reunion of the three of you. This has been a fantastic conversation. We've learned so much. I want to thank both of you. You saw there was a comment from Bangalore where they were thanking Claudia and Joe. That was nice to see. That's a nice comment there. Let me ask Joe to tell us about those instruments behind him.
give you a little instrument tour. Yeah, well, this is just sort of my impromptu studio setup. I have a bunch of different string instruments.
Wow.
And I also have a bunch of different synthesizers and keyboards and other stuff like that. I used to perform pretty often. These days, it's just for my own contentment.
And you're not the music teacher; you're the English and media teacher. So that's pretty cool. Can you tell us a little? I want both of you to tell me a little bit about Chris as a younger Chris. What was he like? And obviously, you folks, kept in touch so that when he came calling, you said yes. I've only taught grad school and only 1 year of undergrad, so my experience with students are a little different. You folks get them when they're less fully formed, fully baked, the way I've gotten to see them. So I'd love to hear from Joe and then from Claudia.
Yeah, Chris is a student. I mean, I thought he was always pretty funny. He has a really good way of kind of like slipping in remarks while you're talking that are usually pretty humorous that I always was entertained by. And I thought he was inquisitive. He did his work, but he was always interested in just kind of having conversations, and I feel like trying to get to know people and his teachers better. Which is always, it's always nice to feel like you can make a connection with a student you have.
So Joe, I know that grad school students and professors
We lost you.
keep in touch.
Professor, if you can hear a bit, would you mind repeating the question?
Can you hear me now, Joe? Can you hear me?
A little bit.
Breaking up.
Hi, I'm Vandana. I'm one of the producers for the show. Sree seems to be having some technical difficulties, so I'm going to redirect this question to Claudia. What was Chris like when you knew him when he was younger?
Well, it's funny because Chris is going to say, oh my God, what is she going to say? My connection with children, it's mostly yard time, and which is a fun time for everybody, and cafeteria time, which in my school for me was a fun time. Chris can say a different thing, say it was torture. Chris was never a troubled child, to me at least, always treat me with respect. And now when I ask Chris, where is his father? Because I remember his father being really involved in the school and with his son. How is your dad?
My dad is doing great.
Oh, congratulations to him. Chris has a wonderful dad. His daddy was very present on his years of elementary school. Very, very present. And I remember you had shoes, like little boots, and you loved them. You wore them every single day. Rain, shine, snow, you had, I don't know if they were sneaker boots or boot sneakers. You loved them. You had them always on. But you are a nice child. Nice kid to me. Very respectful.
Thank you. And hey, 10 years later, my style hasn't really changed that much. I've asked a lot of questions to you here tonight, and I've gained a lot of insights. Really, what I want to know is there any advice that you could give to other school districts right now that may have a little bit of a difficult time readjusting? And Claudia, I would love to start with you.
Well, the only thing I could say to them is I wish they had the parents that we have, because unfortunately the money that's poured into 87 is, use it in the line of a movie, is obscene. So I would not even talk about. But I see that we have a lot in supplies, in books. Maybe Joe knows about that. Books that we order, books that are mandated, and then books that we never used. So I wish the city, with all these programs, would have programs to go around other schools with more money and retrieve all that stuff. But again, politics is a difficult issue. It's a difficult issue. But, you know, for other schools, I just wish they could have what we have. We are very, very lucky. We are very lucky at PS87. So I don't even know how the other schools are dealing with so short staff and all that.
Mm-hmm. Joe, is there any advice that you would give?
Well, since we're kind of, you know, like in medias res with this now, it's hard to know exactly what advice to give to people who are already kind of in the middle of all this. But I think really the thing that kind of bridges the gap the most is just familiarity with technology. I think really trying to embrace and familiarize yourself with all the different tools that are available, as ways to kind of attempt to sort of bridge the physical gap that exists there. I think a lot of what people didn't like with remote learning in the spring was just that, you know, there was no requirement for synchronous time with teachers, and so much of the work was just, you know, we're putting it up there, you get it done when you get it done, and then create it. And that's not really learning, that's not really teaching. But there are a lot of different tools that you can use to make it as close as we can do with this kind of situation. You know, I mean, maybe, you know, in 15 or 20 years when everyone has access to, you know, VR headsets and whatnot, we can have a much more immersive virtual classroom. But I think, yeah, right now it's just, you need to use all the tools available to you. And I think, as you would probably know, Chris, Quest is a school where most of the teachers, I think, are already pretty attuned to the different technologies. And so this is this is stuff we've been doing since before, you know, the pandemic started, really.
In my experience, elementary school is a time where one can awaken their imagination and creativity, and high school is certainly a time in which one realizes who they are and who they are going to become. I would not be who I am today if it wasn't for both my elementary school and my high school, and certainly the two of you for being there along the journey. What I really want to articulate is how important it is right now to support our educational staff by any means, and to realize that this is a fight that we're all in. Joe Salina, Claudia, Zangrillo, thank you so much for being on the show tonight. It has been such a pleasure to speak with you two again.
Yeah, my pleasure, Chris.
Anytime. It was a pleasure being with you in elementary school. And I thank
Chris,
Joe.
well done, both of you, and thank you too.